Hello, this is Charles Upton again. I call this one Alex Jones Learn Metaphysics 2. There's some things I wish I'd said in the earlier one. One of which, one of the things Alex Jones got to when he was asking himself, as really anyone who looks at this whole mess that the world is in must ask themselves at one point, if they're intelligent, is what are the spiritual forces, the hidden forces behind all of this. You can say, well, it's secret societies or it's, political forces who are not making the rest of us privy to their actions. Of course, that's all true, but you get to a point where you say, what's this all about? Is there something behind this? I found a principle which I call, in terms of, the evil of the world, in terms of world domination, there's a kind of mission creep, that term where, you're going to go in and just do a little police action, you end up involved in a total civil war or something worse. Well, there's mission creep when it comes to world domination. It very often starts out as a utopian ideal. If we can only take over the world and fix it so it would be great for everybody, and everybody from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs, and this would be great, and it goes on and on. And then slowly but surely, the beneficiaries of this world domination thing get to be a smaller and smaller group. First, Russia was going to be the paradise of the workers, and then it got to be the province of the Communist Party, and and then the elites within the Communist Party, and now at this point, Russia seems to be ruled by oligarchs. So fewer and fewer people would end up benefiting from these utopian revolutionary developments, which were supposed to sacrifice every known good for some future good, which ends up to be pie in the sky very often. And it goes on and on like this, and then you think, well, but wait a minute, the global elites are reducing this world to a living hell. How are they going to enjoy living in a world like this, where the environment is trashed and they're living in these enclaves, armed enclaves surrounded by starving, ill masses of people? Do they really want? Is this their idea of happiness? Okay, forget happiness for the masses, but this isn't even happiness for the elites. Finally, is it? What's the payoff? What are they getting out of it? So you keep fading back, and you say, well, maybe it isn't the elites who are getting anything out of this, really. Maybe it's the demons who are, in some cases, inspiring them, and to whom, as my book, which I'll show you again, Vectors of the Counter-Initiation, The Course and Destiny of Inverted Spirituality, 360-some pages. Some of these demons, there's indications, particularly in the UFO field, which is where I've seen it, that the elites have turned to certain dark spiritual forces to gain power. This is hard to prove, but it's not hard to show evidence for. And so maybe the elites aren't going to really get anything out of this. Maybe the only beneficiaries are going to be the demons who wish human souls to devour. That's what they get. They're the only ones who are winning anything. So the mission keeps creeping back. But finally, if you look at the nature of demons, they don't get anything. Let's face it, the damned and the demons who torment them never have a good day. They may get momentary relief through doing evil, but after that, things are just worse. They never have a real good day. You cannot expect that the demons, and they cannot expect that they will, take over the world and set themselves up and be living the life of Riley. They won't. They're already among the losers. It's too late for them. So who's winning? Satan himself, is he going to win? Is he the one who's... No one's winning. That's the idea. No one is winning this game. You know, the game of world domination, which is becoming inseparable from world destruction, is an unwinnable game because evil is a negative. It's absurd. No one wins. Not even the forces of evil. They don't win. You know, that they have a momentary triumph and then they end up worse, in a worse state than anybody else. So we have to understand that evil is a bottomless pit. And, you know, the people most to be pitied in a certain sense, ultimately, are the global elites, because they prepared for themselves a horrendous stay in a virtual eternity of darkness. And you can begin to see that now. They aren't even having fun anymore. They can't be secure on their yachts and in their mansions anymore. They feel the darkness of the world breathing down their necks too. So anyway, at one point Alex Jones had on the famous and inimitable David Icke on his program. And, David Icke believes that he has a lot of good things to say. I have to say David Icke is doing some very good work. Unfortunately, he believes that we're all being controlled somehow by subterranean lizard men. And I hope people won't mind if I take issue with this, say that I don't think this is quite an accurate description of what's going on. I mean, apparently Mr. Icke had a true vision of something. He saw this. But because we are generally illiterate and we are being rendered deliberately illiterate as to religious doctrine and metaphysics, and even what's been known about the paranormal throughout human history, he didn't know how to interpret it. Lizard men, they must be lizard men then. Well, anyone with a normal religious education in any tradition would say, well, obviously these are demons. Lizard men, I beg to differ. These are one way that demons appear. And the idea that the lizard men are the reptilians are shapeshifters, and you can look at somebody and you say, that person is obviously one of them. Look at the look on their face. That he's one of the reptilians. Well, what is this? A number of things are possible. That person could be demonically possessed, or could simply have been reduced by the terrors of this society and this world to a sort of not only a subhuman level, but a sub-mammal level. I mean, mammals, like a tiger or a lion, at least has courage, affection, and certain virtues, a certain warmth. And lizards, though, they don't even have that. They're just cold as reptiles. And it's possible for human beings, I fear, to sink to that level where they're operating on what you would call the reptile brain, on the most primitive reactions of eat or be eaten, or protect yourself at all costs, with not even as much feeling in their heart as a tiger or a dog. So this is what people see when they say, "Well, they're shapeshifters. They're turning into." So now I'm doing David Icke, not Alex Jones. But getting back to Alex Jones' Learn Metaphysics, René Guénon, in his book The Reign of Quantity and the Signs of the Times, which is where I get the term counter-initiation from, did a wonderful sort of dialectic of the end times, the way things would have to go as we get near the end of this cycle of manifestation, or the end of this world, this eon. And he says it starts out with anti-tradition, which is basically, I interpret that as materialism, debunking religion, debunking anything that isn't, hard material facts. And this was sort of something that peaked in the 19th century. We would call it classical materialism. Jeremy Bentham and all those people. And then, you'll get pseudo-initiation, which is like flaky New Age groups who are inventing this thing of initiation, who are not in a legitimate lineage. Like, my own path is Sufism. And Sufism comes from the Noble Quran, from the Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and from things he told to Ali and Abu Bakr, which were passed along from human being to human being, along with the grace to understand these things, until the present day. That's initiation. You know, you're in a lineage of real teachers. People who don't have that will start to fantasize and make it up. They know it exists somehow. They don't know how to access it, or they won't put up with what it demands of them, and so they'll start making it up. And that's pseudo-initiation. But then you get to counter-initiation or counter-tradition, which is where there are seriously evil people who can be described as Luciferians or Satanists, who understand there's a kind of initiation you can get from the dark side, and it'll give you power in this world temporarily. And all you have to do in order to merit this power from that source is to do anything you can to pervert or destroy true initiation or true religion. And this is what's going on. And once you see that, you can see it everywhere. You know, I'm debating now whether to do whole videos on. I think I'll do whole videos on some of these issues. But yeah, for example, the UFO phenomenon, which I've done, I guess, a pretty extensive study of. It's a real and paranormal phenomenon. I'm not a debunker. I'm not somebody who does not believe in this. No, I know it's real, and you know, it leaves real physical traces. It can be sometimes the UFOs can be seen on radar. Sometimes they can't, which is very strange. You can see them visually, but not on radar. So these are materializations coming through from another world. And generally speaking, it's not a very nice world, especially these days. This is what René Guénon would call breakthrough of the infrapsychic forces due to the cracks in the Great Wall between material reality and subtle reality, which is happening now because we're getting near to the end of the world. But not only is this a real and strange and inexplicable phenomenon, or fairly inexplicable according to our science, but there's also deceptions around it that are produced by human groups. This is pretty easy to find out. And if you have any idea of how much propaganda, particularly since World War II, has been, you know, projected upon the public to get them to believe in UFOs, while at the same time officially debunking their existence, it will blow your mind. If you want to know the names, dates, and places, read my book.